In a fierce and unequal battle between 3,000 Muslims and 250,000 Byzantines, the army of Islam was almost annihilated and all its leaders fell as martyrs. Then Thabit bin Akram pounced with lightning speed to raise the banner high and fluttering and began to search for the commander of the hour and the hero of the field, Khalid bin al-Walid. Ibn al-Walid picked him up and rode his horse, pushing it with his right hand as if he was knocking on closed doors that were about to be opened. God willing, by the hand of this brave hero. The genius Khalid looked quickly at the field as if his eyes were falcons. Then he reorganized the ranks. On this day, Khalid stood firm as the steadfast mountains. Here his genius in planning appeared, and his cunning and bravery became apparent. Fighting Khalid said about himself in the Battle of Mutah, "9 swords were cut off in my hand on the day of Mutah, and I had nothing left in my hand but a Yemeni blade. And when things went according to plan, and the sword of God proved that he was the greatest militarily after he conquered most of Iraq and the Levant, a difficult event occurred in his leadership career, and the Caliph of the Muslims, Omar bin al-Khattab, had no choice but to take the appropriate decision, which would be against Khalid bin al-Walid. Abu Sulayman lived a life full of wars, conquests, and victories, and he was never defeated in a battle. Khalid said about himself while he was dying, "I witnessed 100 battles, and there is not a single inch of my body that does not have a sword strike or arrow wound. He stabbed him with a spear, and here I am dying on my bed as a camel dies. May the eyes of the cowardly never sleep." That was the day Khalid bin al-Walid cried until his tears streamed down his cheeks, hotter than embers, after he received ominous news from Wardan in Upper Egypt, which burned his heart. Before your mind gears prepare to repel imagination and go beyond the norm, let me tell you epics from the life of a man whose city was filled with glorification and praise. Do not forget to support us by subscribing to the channel, activating the bell. He was a tall, broad-shouldered man with a white complexion and a heavy beard. This is how he was described. He was very similar to Omar bin al-Khattab, may God be pleased with them, to the point that most people used to confuse them. His lineage goes back to al-Walid bin al-Mughira, the master of Banu Makhzum. His mother is Lubaba bint al-Harith al-Hilaliya. His lineage meets with the messenger of God in the 6th grandfather, Mara bint Ka'b. Khalid was a knight since his childhood. According to the consensus of historians, there is no dispute that Khalid learned in his youth everything that a young man nominated for war learns: knighthood and the characteristics of leadership. He became the best among his peers, as it is said that he was one of the best swordsmen with both hands. Khalid's fame spread that he was the most honorable fighter and the most worthy of carrying the banner of the Quraysh army one day, when his father nominated him to lead the horses, and he was not older. His sons, we saw him at the head of the cavalry of the Quraysh army in the Battle of Uhud, and not far from that, he got used to a life of hardship and deliberately wrote roughness upon himself in the desert, so that he could endure the hardships of war and the hardships of hunger and thirst wherever he was far from the sources of provisions. It was mentioned in some hadiths that Khalid used to eat monitor lizards and crave them as the Bedouins craved them, and he was the richest man in Mecca to crave this Bedouin food. So this unique military and mental upbringing was destined to be a drawn sword in the face of the enemies of religion, as if his upbringing had been poured onto a golden platter so that God would prepare him to be his drawn sword, and not in the victory of his religion, and your Lord creates what he wills. And he chooses from among the glimpses of Khalid's life, while he was in the darkness of ignorance after the emergence of the new religion. His father was swayed by him. He hated Islam since its emergence in the Arabian Peninsula, but his genius emerged and was revealed before his conversion to Islam when he took command of the right flank of the Quraysh army in the Battle of Uhud, when the fighting began between the Muslims and the infidels of Quraysh, and thus the clear victory would not have been complete had it not been for Khalid's cunning and his turning around the hill after he noticed from afar some of the archers descending from above it. Here, chaos and confusion spread among the ranks of the Muslims as Khalid attacked the rear of the army in a sudden manner to the point that some fled, and it was rumored in the midst of the battle that the messenger had been killed, and he was the most hostile person to Islam. So how was his Islam? His Islam was the submission of a perceptive leader who knows the movement of fighting and the ebb and flow in the arena of psychological battle. His submission was not the submission of an impulsive person, but rather he reached the level of certainty and confidence on the day he converted to the camp of the new religion, after the message of truth came to him from his brother al-Walid, who preceded him in Islam. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. As for what follows, I have not seen anything more amazing than your opinion and your mind going away from Islam, and no one is ignorant of the likes of Islam. Then he went on to say, the messenger of God asked me, saying, where is Khalid? I said, God will bring him. He said, no one is ignorant of Islam, and if he had made his position alone with the Muslims against the polytheists, it would have been better for him. And indeed, we presented it before others, so make up, my brother, what you missed from it. Khalid's answer was that he was convinced of the new religion in the 7th year of the Hijrah, and only 2 months after his conversion to Islam, the Lord of the universe wrote for him to witness the Battle of Mutah. It was the first participation of Khalid bin al-Walid under the banner of Islam, where he fought the Muslims with 3,000 fighters against 200,000 Romans. Khalid carried the banner after the leaders of the army who were appointed by the messenger of God, may God bless him and grant him peace, were martyred, and they were, in order, Zayd bin Haritha, Jafar bin Abi Talib, and Abdullah bin Rawaha under the blazing desert sun. Thabit bin Akram, may God be pleased with him, pounced with lightning speed to raise the banner high, and fluttering after killing the leaders, the three began to search for the commander of the hour and the hero of the field, Khalid bin al-Walid. Ibn al-Walid took the banner and rode his horse, pushing the banner to his right as if he was knocking on closed doors that were about to be opened, God willing, by the hand of this brave hero. The genius Khalid looked quickly at the field with the eyes of a hawk and reorganized the ranks. On this day, he was steadfast as mountains are firm. Here the genius of Khalid appeared, and his bravery and cunning in the fighting appeared, as his brilliance in military planning for that battle had a great impact in saving the Muslim army. Khalid wanted to save the army in a way that would preserve its entity and maintain its prestige, and he saw that the solution lay in after the withdrawal, after terrorizing the enemy and his days with the arrival of new supplies. He held out at night and then took advantage of the darkness to change the positions of the fighters, turning the left wing into the right wing, the meme wing into the left wing, the rear wing into the front wing, and the front wing into the rear wing. Then he asked his Muslim cavalry to descend in the morning from the top of the mountain, chanting Allahu Akbar, causing dust and a strong uproar. At that time, the Romans thought that endless reinforcements had come to the Muslims, so their resolve weakened. Khalid said about his fighting, 9 swords were cut off in my hand on the day of Mutah, and I had nothing left in my hand but a Yemeni blade. The Muslims attacked the Romans and the fighting continued until their casualties increased in the land of Mutah, and the Romans felt defeated at that time. Khalid ordered the withdrawal of the Muslim army in an organized manner. The Romans thought that they were planning a deadly trap to drag them to him. Theodore, the Byzantine commander, ordered his forces not to pursue the Muslim knights. The Muslims withdrew from the land of Mutah safely until they reached Medina. Khalid was named the Sword of God, drawn in honor of the Prophet's prayer for him on that day, where he said, O God, he is one of your swords, so grant him victory. He was then named the Sword of God drawn. As for his conquests, the lands of Iraq and the Levant were close to him, so he entered them as a victorious conqueror. It is worth mentioning here his letter to the kings of Persia, in which he acknowledges and recognizes the strength of this, the man and his pride in his Islam and himself, where he said, in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, from Khalid bin al-Walid to the Marzaba of Persia. As for what follows, praise be to God who dissolved your system, weakened your plot, and divided your word. Had he not done that to you, it would have been evil for you. So enter into our affair, we will leave you in your affair, and save you to another. Otherwise it will be, while you are hating it, you were defeated at the hands of a people who love death as you love life. Khalid bin al-Walid defeated the Persians in 15 battles and defeated the Romans in 9 battles. When the two empires united with a total of 100,000 fighters in the immortal Battle of Al-Farad, he defeated them with 10,000 fighters. The human and emotional side of the greatest military leader known in history when his son Suleiman was martyred during the conquest of Wardan in Upper Egypt, as a group of Romans surrounded him from every side. So he fought them until his right hand was cut off. So he took the sword with his left hand and began to strike with it until it was also cut off. But they stabbed him in the chest, so he fell a martyr. When the news reached Khalid bin Walid, his tears streamed down his cheeks, hotter than embers. Then he began to recall and say in mourning for his son Suleiman, "My tears ran over the eyelids and poured down, and the heat of the Gada tree increased in the heart and flared up, and my heart was shaken the day I heard of his obituary, and the world became narrow for me, and my tears fell, and my sorrows increased, and worry harmed me. And about my sad heart, God, do not ask, for he was a full moon, exceeding beauty. He rose and became after the light and glory had set, and the generous uncle and maternal uncle was a master. When the market of war was held, he did not know fear. The horses of the mean surrounded him with their families, and they were empowered by the engineer and the weapons and the right of the one to whose house the Quraysh made the pilgrimage and sent Taha, the chosen one, the ultimate hope to kill from them in the battle 1,000 masters if the most gracious is safe, and the term is extended, and in his path the Caliph Omar bin al-Khattab removed Khalid bin al-Walid from the command of the armies and appointed Abu Ubaidah bin al-Jarrah in his place while victory was proceeding in the company of Khalid wherever he was. Al-Faruq Umar feared that people would be tempted by him and lose faith in God, so he removed him, because Omar, may God be pleased with him, said, "But people were tempted by him, so I feared that they would entrust him and he would be afflicted. I wanted them to know that God is the creator and not to be exposed to temptation." So Hafiz Ibrahim says in his collection, Al-Qasid al-Umariyah, "It was said, O Farouk, you contradicted our friend in it, and he had given the bow to its maker. He said, I feared the temptation of the Muslims by him and the temptation of the soul. Who can treat it?" So Ibn al-Walid had no choice but to comply with the decision of dismissal and departed to Medina in peace. And when the hour of death approached and he felt the nearness of his end, he said, "There was no night on earth more beloved to me than a night of intense ice in a company of the emigrants who were attacked by the enemy. So go to the direction. I sought to be killed in a place of suspicion, but it was not decreed for me except to die in my bed. And there is nothing in my work that I hope for after there is no God but God than a night that I wasted. I am wrapped in my armor and the sky is raining, waiting for the morning to attack the infidels. I have witnessed 100 battles, and there is not a handspan on my body that does not have a sword strike, arrow shot, or spear thrust. And here I am dying in my bed a natural death as a camel dies. May the eyes of the cowardly never sleep." Then he said, "May God be pleased with him. When I die, then look at my weapon and my horse, and make them a weapon in the way of God Almighty." Then he added, saying, "I left my will to Omar bin al-Khattab." This was an admission from him and a declaration that what Omar, may God be pleased with him, did was for the sake of preserving the faith of the Muslims. The soul of Khalid bin al-Walid went to its creator in the 21st year of the Hijrah. Scholars differed about the place of his death. Some say, until he was buried in Homs, and others that he was buried in Medina. May God have mercy on the drawn sword of God, Abu Sulayman Khalid bin al-Walid, the conqueror of the Romans, the Persians, the apostates, and all those like them until the day of judgment. Do not forget to support us by subscribing, activating the bell, and interacting with the video to receive everything new.